Hey everybody, it's your friend Sarmate here, and we're back with another episode of Settlement Survival. I hope you're having a fantastic and amazing day today. This one we're going to work on reshuffling the town around a little bit. We're going to try and get some backpacks going for some better efficiency. I would also like to work on getting some more paper for more tech points more often. We currently have our paper mill working kind of slowly. We are working reeds and water into paper. We could be using timber and or bamboo as well to really go hard on the paper. But what I'm thinking about doing is building a couple more reed fields to really get a lot of reeds coming in. And I would like to do that with the help of the backpacks. So we have a couple people here just immigrating into the town, 13 people. We're going to go ahead and accept those guys. And I'm just realizing that our town hall is missing an administrator. So let's go ahead and click on this. We have fruit yield plus 10% and weather is warmer. Neither of these are that great. Let's just go ahead with warmer weather. For our reed fields, let's get those started right away here. We already have the two. I'm thinking about seeing if we can fit anything else. Oh, this is going to work right by the other fish dock. So let's do, I'll do that one more. And then we'll put one more right over here. That'll be perfect. So that's going to be a couple more people. We're going to go ahead and put Evan into this reed field as well. And what else are we going to need here? So if we're getting a lot of reeds, we're going to need a way to process those. So we need our paper mill here. Let's go ahead and put a couple more people in the paper mill to hopefully produce enough. We have some reeds in stock, but we're going to need a lot more of those. So hopefully with our new reed fields coming in, we'll be able to keep up with that demand. We were also talking about grabbing backpacks. So we do have one tech point available here. Let's go ahead and grab backpacks. These are going to allow our citizens to carry 100 more carry weight. Pretty great. But we are going to need cotton cloth and or rope. And we don't have those. So hopefully the rope here we will be able to get with, of course, our reed fields. The cotton cloth we can do a little bit of trading for. We check our rep with Carlos. We could maybe... after a while here, get to seed trade with Carlos and purchase some good cotton seeds. I'm thinking before that, I'm going to have to save up to just straight up buy cotton seeds from Antonio, but we don't even have a dock yet. So getting cotton is a little bit far out. The backpack uses cotton cloth and ropes at the tailor. So we'll check our tailor and see what that looks like. I mean, obviously it says cotton cloth and rope. Yeah, we need both. So backpacks are a little bit farther out for us right now. So I kind of overlooked that cotton cloth part of it. We could do some importing of that, of course, but that's going to be expensive to do. We don't have a whole lot of good exports right now, but the rope we can have working out here. And in order to do that rope, we are going to need a couple more of these knitting workshops, especially now that we have a couple more reed fields on the way. Let's go ahead and we'll get one going right here, and we'll just do the flip side of it right here. So about the reshuffling of the town, our friend Portent left a whole bunch more tips, and they suggested going around and checking out a couple of things such as our hunter's hut and consider turning those off. And the reason for turning the hunter hut off would be because the hunter's huts are things that can find you the cubs, which are the small versions of like the buffalo, the geese, the turkey, alpaca, some of those other critters that we have running around. This, of course, also gets some tears and some fats and leathers and other things, but they're also taking up 6 people. And right now we're doing really, really great with our production of food. So we can cut back the hunters a little bit. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to take the 3 hunters out of here, and along those same lines with the gatherer's hut, this is another thing they mentioned. The good thing about gatherer's hut is getting herbs, right? But we have nurseries now, so I think I'm going to also take this out. And also along those same kind of ideas, we have our forester hut here. We're using 5 people for a forester hut, which is producing not a whole lot of timber per year. So I'm thinking about taking these 5 people out of the forester huts and instead putting in another forest farm and making them get timber that way. That just makes a little bit more sense to me. And I'm kind of thinking about maybe even changing where that apiary is. But for now, I think we'll just leave it. We'll demo these, get the resources back from those, and continue to have the dense forest here from the apiary because we aren't going to take away any of that just yet. This reed field is good to go. Let's go ahead and get our 2 workers in there. This reed field is good to go. Let's go ahead and get that started. Our other one right here is looking for some timber and some clay. So we do only have 2 builders right now, but they'll get to it here eventually. We do have yet another tech point. We'll have to check that out in just a moment. But let's go ahead and get the let's go ahead and get those other forest farms started. I've been trying to do different sizes of things in this playthrough, so I think I'm going to go ahead and try and go for a 15 by 11 here, kind of a weird size, but this mountain is kind of screwing me over. So we'll get that started. We do have a handful of free laborers right now because we have the immigrants came in, and of course we were moving some people around. We'll save a couple of people for each farm, so that's going to be 4 people on the farm, so that's going to put us at about 10. But I also do want to get our fuel factories and our kilns working from the last episode. We have them built up, they're ready to go, but we don't have anybody working in them. We need some more base resources to really get them operating. I think we're going to go ahead and get 1 fuel factory started with Evan here, and then once these forest farms are going, we'll be at 9. And I do want to keep some laborers around, and then when we have our reeds here, that'll be an additional 2. That's going to put us at 7 laborers, assuming nobody dies here. That's a pretty decent spot. Another thing important mentioned was the wells are important for putting out fires, but we don't have disasters turned on. I don't really like playing with disasters because I feel like they just kind of waste time. Now that we have reservoirs, we don't really need all of these big wells around here. And let's see the difference here. So we have our big wells. These wells have been around for quite a while. Last year, 564 with 2 workers. Let's see what this 2-worker reservoir did. 864. So we're getting about 200, give or take, more water per year for using a reservoir over a well. I mean, that just makes sense to get rid of our wells and use our reservoirs instead. So let's go ahead and shift those couple people around. And I am going to go ahead and demo this little well here. And then let's get these wells out of here as well. We also are probably going to want to put in another reservoir to make up for those changes in the water production. So we're going to go ahead and put 1 there. And we'll get 1 more here at the end of the peninsula. All right, those are well on the way. It looks like we are kind of doing okay with our herbs. We are in the red currently with those. Let's go check our medicines production here. Yeah, we're just short, so we want to have at least 1 more nursery. And I'm thinking about moving the nurseries more up towards our farming area up over in here. I'm thinking about taking out these corrals and using them right in here. But for now, I think we'll just kind of go ahead and plop this guy right in here. We'll try and get as much of this fertile land for the nursery as possible. Looks like we can get about half. I'm not really sure how well that'll play out. But we'll get that going. That should be enough to cover us. We're also doing okay with tooling, but I would like to put in 1 more worker here. I did up the caps to most of the things around town to 500 if they were below 500. Our water sawmill here for domestic fuels is 500. Our tools are 500. Taylor's 500. Trying to get a little bit more of a stockpile. Again, that's another thing that Portent suggested that we do. It looks like our reed field's good, so let's go ahead and get that happening. So we'll see how we're sitting with reeds. I got a feeling we're gonna have a lot, and we're gonna have a little bit of excess stuff. We got our knitting workshop right here, good to go. And let's get our rope started. We don't have any flax, so it's just gonna be on reeds. So we'll get that started here. And it looks like we don't have nets yet. Making another knitting workshop for nets doesn't really make a whole lot of sense at this point, so we'll just keep going with our ropes, and we'll just build this other knitting workshop, but we won't put anybody working in it. And we'll see where we're sitting with the reeds. Maybe in our next tech, we could go ahead and get the nets. Let's see where we're at with that. It is the next point, so we could absolutely go fishing nets, start to work towards the fishing port. This thing is pretty good. It has blubber, seal fur, and lobsters in it. So the blubber is going to be used for lighting. The seal fur is going to be used for your more advanced leather works. And then the lobsters are for food. So those are going to use fishing nets continuously, but they're really, really powerful things to have. So that's something that we could consider working towards here. Another thing that I was kind of looking at was our stone and our iron. So I was going around picking up a little bit of the stones of things around town here just to try and supplement our iron a little bit. But then I thought, hey, we should probably just get this party started over here in the steel area that I'm planning. So we got our coal working here. We got some iron. This I would also like to start getting built, and we'll probably do some iron in here as well to really get these things started up with the production. We aren't making steel just yet, but it'll be soon here. We need a couple more things. If we go to mining, we need to get to smelting and then the forge, and then we could really start cooking with some of those higher end metals. Scorching summer. The heat is unbearable. Some citizens are resting by the riverside as they cool off, but there are also some people who propose to go for a swim in the river. The river looks calm and many citizens are tempted to go for a swim. Do you want to stop them? No. The citizens were able to cool off the heat in the water, and they even caught many lobsters. 614 lobsters. That's pretty great. That's a good amount of food that we're getting in here. For our next point, maybe we want to go into smelting here, but is there anything else we want to get before we really get going with smelting? It looks like the hospital is going to require smelting, so that is a good next step. We could start moving towards theater, but I think what we'll do, let's turn this into a little bit more smelting action. I wasn't planning on it this episode, but I think we can get away with it. We have a good amount of clay, we have some stone, we're working on it, we got a quarry, and we were just talking about getting our iron ore working. So let's go ahead and we'll activate this. The smelter is going to process iron and refine fuel into steel. So we're going to go ahead and grab that, and we'll get a couple smelters started up here. We're doing okay still with laborers. We might need to shuffle a few more people around. There aren't any more people on the timeline just yet. Okay, here is our smelter, a little 5x5. So I would also like to put in probably a couple warehouses. Oh, you know what would be good? Some transfer stations. If we could get a transfer station working over here, that would probably be ideal. We're pretty close to another point, so maybe that's the next thing that we put in. We'll start off with a smelter. We're probably going to use more than just one over here. Along with those smelters, we are also going to be needing a thing to make some refined fuels, and that's our fuel factory. So let's go ahead and we'll grab this guy, and let's get this thing placed over here as well. So those two things are well on the way. Let's go ahead and get our warehouse so that we can store some of these goodies that we're starting to gather up over here. So plenty of storage, especially if we can get a transfer station out over here and a delivery station. We can import and export things like crazy from over in this region. Get some of that steel over to our blacksmiths. Get some of the iron to where it needs to go. It'll work out really well. Another thing that I was looking at is our butchers. Now these things are crazy good right now. Look at this, over 1,100 meat coming out of these things. So all these turkeys and corrals that are right here are just doing fantastic. I also have this other butcher here that's almost 2,000 meat chops last year with 2 people in it. I think we're going to kick this up to 3 each. We're making the turkeys. We're having them here anyway. We might as well make the most out of them by putting more people in there, and then we can flex other food producers that maybe aren't doing quite so well, like maybe some peas up here. So you take 2 people out of here. Let's do that. We'll see where we're looking here. So it is September. They are harvesting. Maybe I did that a little bit early. I didn't do it. I wasn't thinking about it when I clicked it, but too late now. We are still making some cactuses over here. We have 1,200 stored up, but our cactus workshop is making 1,200 plus cactus cuts a year, so the food is working out really well for us. We're doing okay with laborers now even. We have more people on the timeline. Things are coming together quite nicely. But if we're going to start processing steel, we are going to need a lot more timber. We did start off the episode with a couple more forest farms, and I think maybe we want to do even a few more. I'm going to put another worker in our fuel factory here, try and get that going a little bit more. And then let's go ahead and bump this up to 500. We'll also bump these up to 500 as well, just so that we get a little bit of a stockpile happening. For sand and clay, what are we looking like for those guys? Clay is looking good, well over 2,000. And then sand, here we go, 605. So sand is doing okay. Clay is doing pretty well. So we may need to put in a couple more sand pits also. We could go ahead and do that right now too. There's a nice little spot right here for a couple more sand pits. Let's get those guys going. Another thing that I was looking at is we did this salt works quite a while ago, and it didn't really work out that great for us. But I'm thinking that we're kind of getting to the point now where other things seem to be working pretty okay, and then we can start to refine some of our meats into some salted meat. More filling food, better to prevent hunger, makes it a little bit more filling, and this is a second tier of food. I think it just kind of makes sense to do it. So let's go ahead and we'll put one worker in there, and then we'll have to have one person in the salt works, and we'll see how that works. If it's not working out, we can go ahead and adjust it. We should have plenty of meat chops now, 1,400. Yeah, we're doing great. We shouldn't have to do much with that at all, really. Hopefully it just works out and there's no issues with it. Let's check on our reed processing over here. It looks like we're starting to stock a little bit, hopefully. 335 in the last year, 285 in that guy. So we're getting there with the reed fields. And then, of course, that means we're getting there with the rope. Another thing that Carlos can provide if we start to trade with Carlos a little bit more, now that we have a few extra people, the rope can be used as a tech experience booster, just like paper can. And we can also make clothing from agave at level 2. So a couple of pretty good things. But of course, that means we're going to need to trade with Carlos. And I don't think we have any cats right now. So we would have to go run, visit Rania, get some cats, come back, and then go visit Carlos, which isn't that big of a deal. We could absolutely do that. Let's do that right now. Let's set that up. Okay, we pause the game. We're going to go visit Rania. We have 4 caravan members. We are buying insurance. We aren't going to sell anything this time. We're going to go ahead and buy 4 cats. So we have 3,600 approximately money and approximately 3,500 with the premium here for our money. So we should be good to go with the premium and buying 4 cats. And then, of course, we'll turn around once those travelers get back and we'll go visit Carlos, get a little bit more money that way. But with something that we could start to work on a little bit more is something to continuously trade. So I know I talked about maybe getting into the transfer station here, and these are super good. They really are. But I'm thinking it's going to take some time for us to really set up our steel area, getting some of that iron coming in and the coal and all that whatnot. So I think we have a little bit of time on the transfer station. But while we're waiting for that to get set up, we could get pottery started. So we need clay or sand and refined fuel to make into cutlery. So that's something that we could continuously trade. I think we're going to go ahead and start with some pottery stuff. Let's go ahead and go to processing here. Let's go to ore. We got our pottery workshop. We can go ahead and sneak a little pottery workshop in here. Let's start to work on the other side of the buildings here. Let's get that pottery workshop started and we'll continue to work our way this way. We'll probably remove that cemetery because it's kind of in a terrible spot right now. With the addition of our sand pits here, we should be able to be gathering up enough clay and sand to be able to make at least the first pottery workshop here really get going. I would probably do a bunch more to really be pumping out that pottery stuff, and we'll eventually go to some statuettes and carve those, and we'll put those probably over in our steel area, but we'll get to that when we get to that. All right, our reed production is doing pretty great here. We're at 425 reeds stored up. I'm kind of considering even maybe backing off one of our reed fields and putting those people to work somewhere else. Our knitting workshop for rope is currently well over our 200 cap, so let's go ahead and pump that up to 500. Rope could also be something that we trade out for some extra money. That could be a good thing to use, as well as our pottery workshop, which we're still waiting on getting created. There's quite a few buildings queued up to get built up, and that one's pretty much in the end. So we have our 1 sand pit good to go. Let's go ahead and get clay started in there. I'm going to take 1 person out of there and leave 1 person in there. I'm going to put the other person in the other sand pit for some more sand coming in. We also have some immigrants. Let's go ahead and grab those immigrants quick before they go away. Okay, and then our salt works that we put that 1 worker in there is doing pretty well. We got 195 salt last year. And if we check on our curing workshop, we're making 340 salts per year with only 1 person. That's pretty good. So I'm happy with that. I think it's working out. And then moving up here where we put this other nursery, I noticed that all of a sudden now our medicine is great. So I built it, took the worker out of there, and now it's just hanging out. I'm still thinking about maybe putting some more nurseries up here for future, especially if we can get some tobacco or coffee or tea, and then we can really get going on in that area with those. And then back over here in our steel workshop area, we have our smelter built up and our fuel factory built up, but we are well over cap on refined fuels right now, so that's excellent. I'm really happy about that. I don't want to increase that cap right now because I want to be able to use that coal as heating. But speaking of which, we do have a couple of mines here that have a few spaces left in them. We do have 20 open workers. So I'm going to go ahead and put 5 workers in each of these mines to really max them out as much as we can, getting tons of coal out of here, getting tons of iron out of here. Now, we have to keep in mind that we're only on the first tier of mines right now, so we are going to need to upgrade our mines eventually. But before any of that, we do have 1 more tech point. I talked about it. Let's go ahead and get that transfer station. We do need some planks and some cut stone. We have some cut stone in reserve from a trade that we did. We should have plenty of plank and iron ore. We just worked toward fixing that one. So let's go ahead and get some of these transfer stations going. So this thing can store items. Workers inside will transport stored items to warehouses outside of the range. Now, these things are a place of confusion for a lot of people, including myself at the beginning. So what these things are going to do, let's put our transfer station down. The way that I think of these, think of it just like a regular warehouse. People are going to be bringing stuff to it to store, but what they're going to do is it's going to ship those goods outside of this circle. So this transfer station is in an area where we're going to have a lot of coal, we're going to have a lot of iron. So if that coal and iron gets brought to that transfer station, iron, let's say, needs to be transported over to our smithies, right? We are iron ore over here to create tools. Well, this warehouse is going to be a receptacle, a place where that transfer station can bring iron to be utilized by the smithy. So it's a dedicated thing that's going to move goods from this area to outside of the area. So these warehouses are viable. They could go over here. That counts because it's outside of that range. So we could move coal and iron over here. It's not really where I want it to go, but it could be a spot. We can also tell this thing, hey, we don't want ore over here, which we don't. So let's go ahead and, while we're talking about it, let's get these ores marked. And we also want to do fuel, now that I'm thinking about it, because fuel, coal, is used as a fuel. So we're going to go ahead and turn off ore and fuel on all 4 of these warehouses right here, because again, that's what these warehouses are for. That's going to be for that iron and that coal to get stored up, and the transfer station, of course, to ship it out. We got our transfer station good to go. It wouldn't hurt to put a couple more of these things in here. We have all of our farms up over in here. Let's go ahead and we'll get a transfer station put in right over here. And again, we have a couple other farms. So look at that. That's a perfect spot right there for some of these things. And then let's tuck one down over here. Lots of water getting produced in this area. So since we took those wells out, this is the only spot that's producing water. So if we need water way up over here for these people to live off of, that's how we're going to move it. So we'll get a couple more of those transfer stations built up. Take advantage of those. Those are so powerful. They really are. Okay, so this sand pit is looking for sand. We have clay working on that one. Let's go ahead and we're still not super great with workers, but let's go ahead and we'll put 1 worker a piece to make us some glass and some brick. These are going to be things that we are going to use a lot of. We have tons and tons of refined fuel ready to go. We're going to have these guys right here get started on that. Our pottery workshop is also good to go. We got clay over here, refined fuels. Let's go ahead and get some cutlery started. A couple other options we have here is porcelain and silver cutlery. For the silver cutlery, we're going to need silver, of course. We don't have that. But the porcelain we could get away with. Oh, right here. It says worth 10, weight 1. Cutlery, worth 6, weight 1. Let's go ahead and get this porcelain started here. Because we have all 3 of these goods right nearby, we should be able to make tons of porcelain to start trading with that. Speaking of our trades, our trading post has returned. We do have a handful of cats now, but we only have the 4 workers left, and I don't want to send all 4 workers out to trade away those cats for some money, and then we'll be at 0 labors. I just don't want to go with that. And with that, I think this is gonna be a good spot to call the episode. We got tons of good stuff done. We got our transfer stations working, we got our kiln factories up and running, and we got a little spot for steel. So thanks for coming in and hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Settlement Survival, and I hope to see you on the next one. Have a fantastic and amazing rest of your evening, day, or night.